As we welcome in the former assistant general manager of the Vancouver Canucks, former NHL executive with the Leafs, Jets, Coyotes, Mr. Laurence Gilman. How are you?
I'm well, guys. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well.
I figured you guys might want to stir the pot again and ask me if the Canucks should reacquire Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So they could be paying him on two different contracts at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm joking.
I know you
Where
are.
were you on that buyout?
I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest.
Okay.
Exactly. Where's that coming from?
Well,
I don't think a team has done that. Has a team done that? Paid a guy on two different contracts? That would be a claim.
Am I missing something? Is he waived or something?
No, he's saying he was last on talking about reacquiring Horvat, and he's saying now.
Right.
Okay. Well,
Mike, we're going to need a whiteboard here, Lawrence.
I'm
sorry. I'm on a lot of medication this week, Lawrence, fighting a couple of things, so
no problem.
I'm not as swift on the uptake. You're familiar. Tocchet. We're on Coach Watch here. And Tocchet didn't want to talk about it yesterday. They're still mathematically alive. I get that. But an interesting piece from Elliot Friedman with regards to the Canucks exercising their option and exercising their contractual rights here on the head coach. What do you make of that tact?
Well, it's interesting because it made me think about my time coming to the Vancouver Canucks, and basically one of my first conversations with Mike Gillis, he asked me, what do you think we should do with Alain Vigneault? And who was going into the final year of a contract. And I said to him, in my opinion, you have two choices. You either fire him or you extend him. Because I do not believe, I'm vehement about this and believe strongly, you cannot have a coach go into the final year of his contract in a Canadian market. You might be able to get away with it in one of the Sunbelt franchises, but if you have a coach on a one-year deal, the minute the team loses 3 games in a row, the media will start with the fire the coach, or the coach is on thin ice, and it's detrimental to your operation. And I believe it is simply a cost of doing business in a Canadian market that you have to have your coach at least on a 2-year deal.
What's detrimental about it?
Well, it just provides a crutch to the players. If they think if the guy's on the final year of his deal, he's on a 1-year deal, then management might not have confidence in him. We don't know if this guy's going to be around. Players and coaches have friction between them all the time. And I just believe that when a coach has some term on his contract, he has a lot more leverage over the players. And it just takes away one significant potential distraction, which is, guys only got 1 year remaining. Nobody has confidence in him. They should fire him and move on.
John Cooper told us a story about, who was it? Stevie Y coming down, giving him the vote of confidence in front of the players, saying, we're not firing this guy. So
when he hired Cooper, he basically told the group, okay, you didn't play for the last guy, Guy Boucher, towards the end. This guy isn't going anywhere. So
they had a bit of a struggle at one point, and then he had the vote of confidence. They gave him a vote of confidence in front of the team, going, you're not getting this guy fired, so you might as well figure it out. And what you're talking about is similar in that you get that vote of confidence, and the players that are maybe waiting it out, looking for the next guy to come, it's not going to happen for them. And we don't get the feeling that that's necessarily the case anyhow. I think most people feel that Rick Tocchet's done a good enough job to earn another year. The question is, why hasn't it happened yet? And it just sounds like he's been kicking the can down the road. Do you buy that he's just not been willing to negotiate up until this point?
Well, look, every negotiation is unique, and it's, in that parties have their own motivation. It's been a long and trying year, obviously, for Rick Tocchet and the Vancouver Canucks. And I could see him saying to management, let's just get through the season here, and then we'll talk about it after the fact. It doesn't take long to extend a contract if both parties are in agreement on, if you want to stay and if they want you to stay, it can be done quickly. I'm not reading anything into this other than the fact that Rick Tocchet just wants to concentrate on making the playoffs and deal with it at the end of the season. Now, I can't understand from management's perspective why they would kind of like to get this dealt with and take away, again, yet another distraction that has, been a scene where there's been a season full of distractions. And, there are vacancies out there in the National Hockey League for coaching. You've got interim coaches in various places. And I can see why the Canucks, on their behalf, would like to get it done. Rick Tocchet is a very good coach, and he would be highly sought after if he were on the market.
Would it be conceivable that a coach goes to management, especially in this scenario? And again, you're not saying that this is happening. I'm just saying, can you conceive of this? That a coach would go to management and say, "Listen, if I come back, player X and Y need to be gone, or player X and Y need to be brought in." Like, would he use pieces of the roster as sort of leverage in whether or not he's going to resign, or is that a bold step that you've never heard of?
Well, you've heard me say this before. Players play, coaches coach, managers manage, and owners own. I would have none of that. Like, your job is to coach the team. And obviously, we'll give you a seat at the table when it comes time to talking about who's going to be, who we're going to acquire, or you may even bring him in at the trade deadline when you're talking about who you might send out. But at the end of the day, you have scouts and you have management people who make those decisions. And if you are allowing your coach to come in and dictate the roster, you are going to find yourself in a world of trouble at some point.
Okay, so Laurence, help me play this out in terms of what's allowed and what is disallowed by the NHL. So let's say they can't get together on an extension. Canucks exercise the option. Obviously, Rick has to agree, right? Like, he's not indentured here. He could resign and quit. At that point, is he free to coach other teams, or do the Canucks have contractual rights over him?
The Canucks could prevent him from taking another job if he's under contract to them for a year. It would be an ugly situation, but in theory, that could happen. I've never seen it, not to my knowledge anyway. But no, I believe at the end of the day there will be a multi-year extension reached here. I think from what I have seen and read and heard, I think Rick Tocchet genuinely wants to be with coaching the Vancouver Canucks going forward, and I believe that Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin want the same thing. So I think at some point this deal gets done. It's just a function of when.
Yeah. Because there's no more trading or compensating for coaches in the NHL.
There is not. If you give permission for someone to go, you open the door. There's nothing coming back your way.
Right. So, like, even in a financial way, like,
I think John Tortorella might have been the last.
He was. I believe he was.
The Canucks received a second-round pick when he
something
went
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, the Canucks wouldn't even have any kind of financial claim or anything like that. If Tocchet wanted to go elsewhere. No. They would just have to say goodbye.
Yes, but it would be a bad look to prevent the guy from not going to some, like, if he doesn't want to be here, what's the benefit of forcing the guy to sit on the sidelines? That's just it's bad form, in my estimation. Right.
Hey, where are you? Sullivan makes like $5.5 million in Pittsburgh. Now he's got 2 cup rings. Rick reportedly is at 2.7. The Canucks at one point were paying a whole lot of coaches not to coach the Vancouver Canucks. You were in Toronto when Babcock got the huge bag. Where are you on paying coaches these days? Like, how much, like Sullivan is twice as much as Rick Tocchet. Like, are there really that many standings points available on a year-to-year basis that the salaries can be that sort of out of whack on the top of the scale and sort of at the middle of the scale? Where are you on paying coaches these days?
To begin with, in the case of Mike Sullivan, it's one thing to be a Stanley Cup winning coach. It's another to be a 2-time Stanley Cup winning coach. And until you've been a cup winner, you're not in that conversation. And it is inappropriate. If I'm negotiating with the coach, and I negotiated on behalf of the Canucks with Alain Vigneault when his deal was up at one point, and I would be telling the employee at that point, like, let's compare apples to apples here. And in fact, we had that very discussion with Alain, and he said, quite frankly, because he represented himself, Claude Julien and Mike Babcock and these other coaches have won the cup. I've not done that. I'm not asking for that amount of money. Now, I also believe that you do get what you pay for in this business. And, it is worth paying a veteran coach, someone with experience, and particularly, I think, someone with familiarity with your roster. And that costs something, and there is a fair market value associated with it. Do I believe that the number is $5 million? Like, do I believe that's money well spent on a coach? I'd probably rather spend it on a third line center. But if a guy's making 2.8 million, and you're negotiating with him on an extension, he's not going down. And the question is, how high are you prepared? How much are you prepared to stomach in paying the guy?
This is the big boy league, though. Like, it's not on the cap. Like, don't you just have to pay market value? Like, I mean, you don't pay him six,
especially if you're a high revenue team.
Yeah.
Can it be viewed as a competitive advantage paying a head coach, Laurence?
Well, if the head coach is good enough, but there's some coaches out there. I mean, you look at Spencer Carberry and the job that he has done in Washington, and I don't think he's making huge glue, as the expression goes. But yeah, in some instances, it is worth paying a good coach, fair amount of money because they're good at what they do. At the same time, I certainly believe there's also a law of diminishing returns, and there needs to be structure and order. And these are businesses that have payroll structures, and there is a point where the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as I like to say. And in Rick Tocchet's case, I also think he probably does have some leverage here because there are other jobs that are going to be available. And when you look around, he probably could be one of the best candidates that would be available if you're a general manager looking to fill a coaching vacancy.
Now, conversely, Manny Malhotra is maybe one of the up-and-coming names in the organization and beyond. He's won 10 straight games now with the Abbotsford Canucks. He's been on an NHL bench for years as an assistant. I mean, he seems to be playing Rick Tocchet kind of hockey. They outshot the opposition 36-13 last night, so the defensive system is there too. Like, they do have a little bit of leverage there in that they've got a replacement that nobody would bat an eyelash at, I don't think.
I don't think Rick Tocchet cares about that one iota.
No.
And I do think Manny is a great evolving coaching candidate. I believe he will coach in the National Hockey League at some point. I would be leery of bringing him out prematurely and putting him behind a bench. I would like to see him get a little more seasoning, a year or two at the very least, to be frank with you, because you're never going to get hurt by getting more experience. It's the same for players as it is for coaches. The American Hockey League isn't just for developing players. You develop coaches as well. And Manny is certainly developing at a rapid rate.
Take me back to the Babcock contract. After you guys got him signed, did anybody bat an eyelash at the salary, and did anybody sweat the buyout after you guys had to let him go?
Well, first of all, I wasn't there when the contract got negotiated. He had been done. That deal was done at least 2 or 3 years before I got there. I think it's fair to say that the powers that be at MLSE were not thrilled to have to pay someone that much money to not work for them. But these are, Bell, Rogers, Larry Tannenbaum, et cetera, are well-experienced owners and have been through it many times. And, they understood what they were getting into when they executed this contract with its employees. So, again, it's the cost of doing business. No owner wants to pay anybody to not work for them, irrespective of what the price is. But again, when the price starts going up as high as it did in that instance, that's a bitter pill to swallow, to say the least.
I'm really bad on my Maple Leaf knowledge here today. Ekman Larson, Babcock. I'm screwing everything up, Gilman. I apologize.
Everybody's entitled to an off day.
And I'm having one right here with you.
Hold on, I should add that last week I wasn't at my best because I referred to Drew O'Connor as Dowling, which I don't know why I did that.
Yeah, no.
And then I also stated erroneously that Duncan Keith cross-checked Daniel Sedin in the face when it was in fact an elbow.
Yes.
That was pointed out by one of your listeners or followers, Yerky21.
Yeah, Yerky is all over those things.
Oh my gosh.
Quite pedantic. And yes, the dirty elbow from Duncan Keith.
I should know. I was there. I was in the building.
Yeah, and we spent many a show on that. Like
yes.
That, the pride of Penticton with the dirty elbow. Do you have anything further for him? I'm just going to shut up now. I'm quitting while I'm behind. All right.
No, not
Laurence,
that much.
We'll end on that note. Thank you for this. I'll be better next week. Promise you that. Thank you for your time. Until then.
Don't be too hard on yourself, Matt.